Some truths arrive quietly, folded between pages, written in a shaky hand, buried inside a story someone never meant to be read. For Jonah, the truth came at 20, not through court records, not from his adoptive parents, but inside a used book on a rainy Tuesday afternoon when he opened to chapter and something slipped out. Jonah loved old bookstores. The smell, the stillness, the secrets. On that Tuesday, the storm had driven him off the street and into a dusty shop tucked between a bakery and a tattoo parlor. The bell chimed softly as he entered. He ran his fingers along cracked spines, titles yellowed by time. Then he found it, The House with No Windows by Emily Gray. The same book his high school English teacher had once recommended before he dropped out. A wave of nostalgia swept over him. He paid the 2.0s, tucked the book under his coat, and went home. That night, as rain tapped gently against his window, Jonah curled into his couch and flipped through the novel. At page 43, a folded note fell out. Cream-colored, fragile, he hesitated, then opened it. A single sentence, written in cursive, "To the child I lost but never stopped loving, chapter 12 holds everything." His heart stilled. He flipped to chapter. There, scrawled in pencil between the lines of printed text, were annotations. Not analysis. Not thoughts. But memory. You loved warm milk before bed. I named you Luca before they took you. You were born on a Thursday. 6 pounds, 3 ounces. They told me I'd never see you again. Jonah dropped the book. His hands trembled. Luca? His adoptive parents, Carol and Martin, had always told him he was adopted, an act of love, they said. But they never gave him details. Just that his birth mother wasn't in a position to raise a child. He asked once at 13 and got a firm, "We don't talk about the past, we talk about now." But now, someone had talked in the margins of a book, and they had called him Luca. He stared at the note for hours, trying to understand why it felt so familiar. Then he remembered a donation box at the community center where he volunteered twice a week. Old clothes, canned food, used books. He dug through his phone and found a photo he had taken of a handwritten flyer from last month. Help M clean out her attic. Saturday 2/6. The handwriting was identical. He zoomed in. M. He barely slept. The next day, he returned to the community center. He asked the coordinator casually, "Hey, that lady who donated all those books last week, M, do you know her full name?" The coordinator hesitated. "You mean Margot?" "Margot? Yeah, sweet older woman, retired teacher, lives over on 8th and Willow. Does she ever come by? She was just here yesterday." Jonah's heart raced. He thanked her and left. And just like that, the boy who had always believed he was unwanted was walking toward a woman who had never stopped leaving breadcrumbs. The house on 8th and Willow was modest, peeling paint, flower pots on the porch. Jonah stood at the door, heart pounding, hands clammy. He knocked. A minute passed. Then the door opened. She was older than he expected, late 60s, maybe 70, but her eyes, they looked just like his. "Can I help you?" she asked gently. He held up the book. "I think this belonged to you." She stared at it. Her lip trembled. "Chapter 12, she whispered. "Are you Margot?" She nodded slowly. "And were you looking for a boy named Luca?" She broke into tears. They sat in silence for a long time, tea cooling in untouched mugs. Finally, Margot spoke. "They told me you died during birth. I was 17, alone. My parents said it was best if I didn't see you. But I didn't die." "I know now. I found out 6 years later when I tried to get my hospital records. Everything was seals. The doctor was transferred. The midwife had retired. So what did you do?" "I wrote. I hid notes in books I donated. I volunteered at clinics. I looked in every face I passed on the street." Her voice cracked. "But I never found you." Just as Jonah was about to ask why now, why this book, why him, a piercing fire alarm sounded down the street. Margot rushed to the window. "That's the halfway home." Jonah followed her gaze. Smoke curled from a building 2 blocks away. Sirens wailed. They ran toward it. Jonah felt something tightening in his chest. Not fear. Recognition. The home was ablaze. A crowd had gathered. Firefighters shouted commands. In the upstairs window, a small boy pounded the glass. Margot froze. That's Leo." "Who?" "He's one of the kids I tutor, from the foster system." Jonah didn't hesitate. He darted around the side, scaled a drain pipe, and slipped through the window. Smoke burned his throat, but he found the boy, wrapped him in a blanket, carried him down the stairs. They emerged to cheers. Margot wept as she hugged Leo. "You saved him," she whispered. "I had to," Jonah rasped. "Why?" He looked at her. "Because I think I've been him." Back at Margot's house, as she tended to Leo, Jonah noticed a dusty folder labeled adoption sealed. He opened it. Inside, a birth certificate, a photo of a baby, a name blacked out, and at the bottom, a page stamped, finalized by Judge Everett R. Cole, August. He took a photo with his phone. Something about the name, Everett Cole, tickled a memory. He'd seen it before. On the dedication plaque inside his adoptive father's law office, Jonah stood on the porch, the book in his hand, the note crinkled in his pocket. He now knew he was Luca. He now knew his birth mother had never abandoned him. But one truth hadn't surfaced yet. Why the man who adopted him also happened to be the judge who finalized the case. And why the name Everett Cole wasn't on the adoption papers, but had been scratched out in red ink. Some secrets don't just break you. They redefine you. Make you question every "I love you," every bedtime story, every family dinner. Because when the person who raised you also signed the paper that erased your identity, you're left wondering, was I ever really theirs? Judge Everett Cole, respected, charismatic, community pillar. And the man Jonah had called Dad since he could talk. Jonah grew up believing he was adopted through a legal agency, that Carol and Everett had waited years, filled out paperwork, prayed, hoped. But now, that folder, that scratched out name, that signature, it told a different story. That night, Jonah sat across from Everett and Carol. Roast chicken, soft jazz, the usual calm. He studied them. Carol smiling gently. Everett reading the newspaper. He couldn't hold it. "Who is Margot?" Forks clinked. Everett froze. Carol looked up slowly. "Why do you ask?" "Because she left me a note. In a book. She called me Luca." Carol's face went pale. Everett folded his newspaper carefully. "Jonah, some things are best left in the past. Did you know about her? Did you know I had a different name?" Everett didn't answer. Carol stood. "You're scaring me." "I'm scared too," Jonah said. "Because I found a file. With your name, Dad. As the finalizing judge." Everett's expression didn't change. "You don't understand how broken the system was back then. So you fixed it by stealing me?" Everett stood, calm but stern. "We gave you a life, a chance. Margot was 17, unfit, alone. That wasn't your choice to make. It became mine when the adoption agency handed me the case. She was a child herself. You would have ended up in foster care." Jonah's voice broke. "You rewrote my life like it was a legal form." Later that night, Carol came to his room. Her eyes were red. "I didn't know until a few years after we brought you home." "And you didn't say anything?" "Because I saw the way you looked at him. You adored him. He's not who I thought he was, but we are. We love you, Jonah. That part is real." He looked away. "I'm not Jonah. Not really. You're both. You're Luca too. And you get to decide what that means." The next day, Jonah returned to Margot's. She had pulled out a shoebox filled with letters, sent but never mailed. "They said I couldn't contact you, but I wrote anyway. I hid them in books, at libraries, left them in grocery aisles. Why? Because I needed to believe you'd find me." He pulled out a worn envelope labeled, "For Luca's 10th birthday." Inside, a photo, a baby wrapped in a blue blanket, a charm bracelet with the name Luca on it. He touched the photo gently. "He told me I was unwanted." He lied. Jonah dove into research, court records, adoption files, Judge Cole's rulings. What he found chilled him. Between 1992 and 1999, Everett Cole finalized 73 adoptions, more than any other family court judge in the state. Many of the birth mothers were underage. Many were from low-income neighborhoods. All the records were sealed. Jonah called Julian, a journalist friend. "This wasn't a one-time thing. He didn't just rewrite my life. He's been doing it for years." Then we expose him. Julian traced one case in particular. A girl named Raina Williams, age 16, gave birth and her baby vanished from the hospital records. Raina filed a suit against the adoption agency and against Judge Cole. 2 months later, she vanished. Her lawyer, Natalie Breen, dropped the case and left the state. Julian found her in Arizona. When Jonah called her, she answered in a whisper, "If you're asking about Cole, I can't help you. Please." I'm his son. Or, I was. A pause. Then I hope you're ready. Because the people he works with don't let secrets stay buried. Julian obtained access to an old city records office where sealed cases were stored. Jonah and Margot joined him. Inside dusty file drawers, they found it. Luca James, infant adoption case, Den 7. The folder was mostly blank, just 2 pages. The birth mother, Margot Hale. Adoptive parents, redact, finalizing judge Everett Cole. Attached was a fax letter, approved under emergency transfer protocols, subject to internal confidentiality, transfer facilitated by R. Marlowe. Margot gasped. Marlowe, he was the agency director, he's still on Ramani Foundation's board? Jonah looked at her. You think Ramani was involved in my case? I don't know, she said. But if they were, this goes even deeper than we thought. That night, Jonah couldn't sleep. He stared at the old charm bracelet. Luca, a name stolen. A life rewritten. Then, his phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. If you keep digging, the next thing you find will be a grave. Attached, a photo of Margot, taken that morning. From across the street, they say when you find the truth, it sets you free. But they don't talk about what happens just before that. The moments when the truth starts fighting back. When it sends you photos of your birth mother from across the street. When you realize, this isn't just a cover-up. It's a machine, and it's still running. The message was clear. If you keep digging, the next thing you find will be a grave. Attached a photo of Margot outside her home, carrying groceries. Jonah stared at the image until his hands shook. They're watching her, he whispered, and they want me to stop. He called Margot. She didn't answer. He called again, then again. Finally, I'm okay, honey. Just got home. What's wrong? Get inside. Lock the door. Don't go out. Why? Please, just do it. I'll explain soon. That fax document from his sealed case. R. Marlowe, the man who had facilitated the emergency adoption transfer. Julian pulled up his profile. Raymond Marlowe, former director of Horizon Family Services. Currently board member Ramani Foundation. Still living in state, in a gated community outside Hawthorne. He signed the paper that erased your birth name, Julian said. And now he's sitting on the board of an organization accused of identity manipulation. Then I want to meet him. That's suicide. Then I'll ask nicely. The house was massive. Glass walls, white stone, overlooking a valley. Jonah walked up the drive in a hoodie, hands tucked into his pockets. He rang the bell. A moment passed. Then the door opened. A tall man, early 70s, perfectly pressed shirt, eyes like a crow. Yes? Jonah smiled calmly. My name's Jonah, but I think you knew me as Luca. Marlowe's face didn't move. You should leave, and you should sit down. He stepped inside before Marlowe could stop him. They sat in a cold, spotless living room. Jonah placed the adoption file on the glass table. You signed off on this. Marlowe looked bored. I processed hundreds of cases. That name doesn't ring a bell. I was taken from my birth mother under forged claims, then handed to a judge who adopted me himself. If you're implying misconduct, you'll need more than circumstantial. Jonah pulled out the note. She left this in a book. She's been searching for me for 27 years. Marlowe blinked. Then she was lucky. You turned out fine. You don't get to say that. Why? Because I helped you land in a nice house? A warm bed? Parents who weren't addicts or runaways? Because you stole my life. And dozens of others. Marlowe leaned forward, voice low. There are truths you're not ready for, son. Your story isn't special. You're just one of the ones who figured it out. Then help me understand. No, I'm not here to make peace. I'm here to make sure you stop before people you love disappear again. Jonah stood. You can't scare me. I don't have to. I just have to remind you. Marlowe handed him a folded paper. Inside, a printout of a security log. A photo of Julian entering the records office 3 nights ago. Your friend has a daughter, doesn't he? Jonah's jaw clenched. You're bluffing. We know everyone. Everyone who touches the file. The longer you talk, the more collateral you create. Jonah stepped forward, eyes locked. You think you've built a machine, but machines break, and I know where the wires are now? Jonah, shaken, met Julian and Margot at a rented safe house outside the city. He placed Marlowe's threat on the table. They've been watching us. Julian rubbed his temples. They want you scared, disarmed. Margot whispered, what if they go after Layla? Jonah looked down. He had thought digging up his truth would only affect him. But now, Others were at risk. Then we don't just release the story. We release them all. Julian looked up. You mean the entire archive? Every sealed case Marlowe touched, every child reassigned, every mother erased. Julian hacked into a private server used by Horizon Family Services. Hidden folders, client lists, redacted court files. Some marked with codes A14, urgent transfer, S01, VIP. He decrypted one file. It contained a case labeled Arhale, emergency termination of parental rights. Transfer approved by Judge E. Cole. Jonah's stomach turned. They lied. They said she relinquished, that she was unstable. Margot's eyes brimmed. They forged it. How many others? Jonah asked. Julian's hands flew across the keyboard. It's not just dozens, it's hundreds. Julian called in a contact, Tessa Fields, an investigative journalist with the Beacon Post. She arrived that night. Listen quietly as Jonah laid out the timeline. She read the files, the forged signatures, the patterns. Then she sat back, stunned. You know what this is, right? A crime ring, Jonah said. It's more than that. This was systemic, state-level cooperation. Medical staff, judges, social workers. It's child trafficking in suits and ties. So will you publish? She nodded slowly. Only if you're ready to be the face of this. I don't want to be the face. He looked at Margot. But someone's child deserves to be found. They began preparing the files for release. Jonah knew once the story went live, there'd be no going back. Not for him, not for Margot, not for anyone on the list. Then Tessa's phone rang. She answered, froze. Her eyes widened. What? She hung up. Julian's apartment was ransacked. Jonah stood. Is he okay? He's gone, vanished, left everything behind. And on his door, a note. Just 3 words. Stop or vanish. When someone disappears, you learn to listen for the quiet things. Phones that don't ring. Messages that don't come. Doors that creak and don't close again. Julian was gone. Vanished. And now it was my turn to decide whether to disappear with the truth or bury it so someone else wouldn't. But I was done hiding. And I wasn't going to run. We sat in silence after the call. Tessa paced the living room, her hands trembling. They made a move on a journalist. You said they'd go after whistleblowers, I said. But I didn't think they'd make someone vanish. Margot sat on the edge of the couch, clutching her old charm bracelet. If they know about Julian, they know about this place. Then we don't wait, I said. We upload everything now. Tessa looked uncertain. If we rush it, they'll question the validity. They'll discredit you. They've already done that. Since the day they forged my name. Tessa helped us encrypt the files, backing them up onto multiple flash drives. Case numbers, testimonies, illegally sealed court documents, transcripts of interviews, over 270 stolen identities. Many still in the system. Many still children. One folder labeled Project Emergence, Phase 3 candidates. It had Layla's name. Margot gasped. That's your goddaughter, right? Tessa nodded. They're targeting new generations now, perfect behavior profiles. No legal ties. We copied the files to 3 secure servers. Once I send this link, Tessa warned, your lives change forever. Jonah looked at her. They changed the day I found a note in a book. As Tessa pressed upload, someone knocked. Not loudly, just twice. Heavy, deliberate. Jonah motioned to Margot to hide. He peered through the peephole. A man in a courier uniform stood holding a small box. Delivery for Jay Hill. He opened the door cautiously. I didn't order anything. The man said nothing. Just placed the box in Jonah's hands and walked away. Inside the box, a burner phone. It buzzed to life. Unknown number. We still have him. Stop the upload, and we'll talk. A photo came through. Julian, alive, blindfolded, tied to a chair. Jonah stared at the phone. His hand shook, but his voice didn't. They want me to pull the upload. If you don't, Tessa said, they'll kill him. Margot looked at him. You can't let them silence all those voices. I know. He walked into the next room, took a deep breath, called the number. A voice answered, calm, measured. You have 10 minutes? Take it down, or your friend never comes back. Let me speak to him. No, you don't get leverage, just a decision. The line went dead. Tessa turned to Jonah. You know what he would have told you to do. But I can't let him die. Then make them choose. Release it anonymously, remove your name. Jonah nodded. He'll drop it under the Hale archive. Attach the timeline, remove personal identifiers. Will they still come after you? Yes. He stared at the flashing cursor. Clicked send. The archive was live. Within an hour, the Hale archive trended on every major platform. Stolen live. Adopted through lies. Systemic child laundering. Judges, lawyers, agencies, all implicated. Comments flooded in. 1,000. Some survivors. Some searching. Some just angry they hadn't known. News stations picked it up within 2 hours. Jonah watched the world crack open. An emergency press release from Horizon Family Services denied everything. But within, the Ramani Foundation's board was suspended. A class action lawsuit began. The Attorney General launched a probe. Judge Everett Cole stepped down from his seat. Jonah's name wasn't on the release, but he knew it wouldn't matter. They'd find him. Because he didn't just burn the bridge, he poured gasoline on the empire and lit a match. At 3:17 a.m., the burner phone buzzed. A video file. Jonah pressed play. Julian sat, blinking, a bruise beneath his eye. He spoke clearly. Jonah, you did the right thing. Don't regret it. Tell my daughter I love her. Then a voice behind the camera. You chose the truth. So now, choose the price. A shot rang out. The screen went black. Margot screamed. Tessa covered her mouth in horror. Jonah dropped the phone. But as the screen flickered, a second file arrived. Julian again. Same chair, but he was smiling. If you're seeing this, I made it out. They faked it, tried to scare you. He leaned forward. But I got something before they caught me. A name, one you need to see. The screen glitched. Then the text, there's someone inside Ramani, still working the system, still stealing kids. Codename, me. She's closer than you think. The screen cut to black, and the phone rang again. Every story ends. But some endings are choices. Some require stepping over the final threshold, confronting the person who held the last secret, and asking, why? Because sometimes the person closest to you was the one writing the pages you were never meant to read. Julian's message echoed in Jonah's ears. There's someone inside Ramani, still working the system, still stealing kids. Codename Maeve. Jonah paced the safe house. Tessa pulled up personnel records from Ramani's active branches. No Maeve. No one even using it as a middle name. Until Margot sat up straight, eyes wide. Maeve. Maeve was Carol's sister. Your mother's sister. Jonah froze. What? Carol was adopted. Her real name was Maeve Carlson. She changed it in college. And she married Everett Cole. Jonah's breath caught. My adoptive mother. Tessa turned her screen around. I just ran her name. Carol Maeve Cole was a founding donor of the Ramani Placement Initiative. She funded their pilot reprogramming facility in Jonah whispered, she helped build the system that stole me. Jonah didn't wait. He returned to the Cole estate, the same house where he had grown up. Slept, cried, laughed. Now it felt like a tomb. He stepped inside without knocking. Carol stood at the dining table, folding napkins. She looked up, startled. Jonah? Luca. She flinched. What are you talking about? I know who you are. I'm your mother. No, you're Maeve Carlson. You helped create Ramani's pilot program. You helped me from Margot. Her face collapsed. I did what I thought was right. You were meant to be with us. You were meant to have a better life. You were part of the theft. And then you changed your name. Changed mine. Carol sat down, shaking. Your father, Everett, he told me about you. Said a girl had given birth and the baby would end up in the system. I wanted a child. So you bought me. No, it wasn't like that. Then what was it? She wiped her tears. It was desperation. I miscarried twice. They told me I couldn't adopt legally because of a prior arrest in college. Everett said he had a way. And you never thought about what that would do to me? Every day. Jonah pulled out a flash drive. This is everything. Proof. Your donations. Your correspondence with Marlowe. Carol stared. You're going to destroy us. You destroyed yourself. I'm just turning on the light. She looked up. You're still my son. You were supposed to be my mother, but instead you became my captor. She broke. I did love you. Then you should have let me go. Jonah returned to the safe house. Tessa prepared the final story. A direct link between Maeve Carlson, Carol, and the foundational structure of Ramani. The last piece of the puzzle. Margot sat silently, watching the screen. Will it matter? She asked. Yes, Jonah said. Even if they don't go to jail. Even if no one apologizes. Yes, he whispered. Because I'll know, and the others will too. The article dropped at midnight. The woman named Maeve, how a judge's wife helped design a hidden adoption empire. Subhead, her own son exposed it. Within hours, national news picked it up. Whistleblowers came forward. Romani shuttered 3 regional offices. A federal inquiry was launched. Carol Cole, aka Maeve Carlson, was issued a federal subpoena. Everett was already in hiding. The machine had cracked. And Jonah was free. Months later, Jonah sat in a new apartment. New city, new name. His real name, Luca. He pulled out the house with no windows, flipped to page. The note was still there. To the child I lost but never stopped loving, chapter 12 holds everything. And now, he had found everything. Luca visited Margot that spring. She had planted daisies, made cocoa. They sat on her porch, the sky deep pink with sunset. You always said I'd find you, he said. And you did, but it took so long. Some journeys don't start until you open the right book, he smiled. In his pocket, a new note. He left it in a library copy of The House with No Windows. To the child still searching, keep going. You're not alone. L. Because sometimes stories aren't meant to be hidden. They're meant to lead someone home. What if the people who tried to rewrite your story never expected you to pick up the pen? Moral reflection. Some truths take decades to find. Some names are stolen, some stories are hidden. But healing begins when someone dares to ask, who was I before they renamed me? What did this story teach you about justice, memory, and the strength it takes to reclaim your name? Share your thoughts in the comments.